You're listening to the Jay Bird Watching Podcast, the official podcast of jaysjournal.com and fansided.com, where we discuss all things Toronto Blue Jays baseball. We'll talk about news, rumors, and game recaps. So whether you're a diehard fan or just getting started with the team, this is the podcast for you. Here's your host, Craig Borden, with co-hosts Jason Lyons and me, Ken Alfred. You're listening to the Jay Bird Watching Podcast.
Good evening, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to another lovely evening of Jaybird Watching. I am your host, Craig Borden, here with my BFF for Blue Jays Net Land, and apparently epitome of horrible at the moment, Jason Lyons. How are we doing right now in this team game?
You know what, buddy? Really good. It's a beautiful day here in Vancouver, and it's been an interesting week, we'll say. Not only in Jays land, but in everybody's lives. It's funny when real life gets in the way of things, but. Yeah, getting on through it. Looking forward to. I'm going golfing with the boys this afternoon, so I'm looking forward to that. A little twilight golf to make you feel right. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I can get my shoulder back up to here, so maybe there's some golf in my near future. So
there you go.
We're getting close. Shoulder surgery, but post removal part anyway. So. On that note, let's dive into the fun, my friend, because like I said, there is a lot to unpack in this past week in Toronto Blue Jays baseball. And yeah, go ahead.
I said there's just a ton. There's a ton of stuff.
So I want to talk the first things first. The first, what I call trade of the off season, or I mean mid-season here, would be the fact that the Blue Jays last week in between our episodes actually designated for assignment Cavan Biggio. So the bloodline has been officially starting to break up as far as the Blue Jays general managers are concerned. So first off, let's talk the DFA part. Were you honestly shocked, or were you just kind of like, oh, it's about time that happened? What was going on in Jason's head on that one?
I don't know. I feel like it's like we've been back and forth with Biggio in, Biggio out, Biggio in, Biggio out. And I mean, I think the fact that the Jays never really went out of their way to find this kid a place to play was a telltale sign that he was probably never going to stay the full course. Now, that being said, I felt like there was probably a couple of suitors for Biggio. Interesting that the Dodgers would be the team where he would land.
Yeah, that was what surprised me too.
The Dodgers are always looking to cultivate good talent, and they've pulled a few diamonds out of the rough and made them into real stars. And I feel like, as an organization, because they have so many high highs with Mook and with what's that other guy's name that they've got that's so good.
Oh, like Outman and all those guys on the outfield and whatnot.
I was joking about Ohtani. Like, I mean, they've got some big money
dancing around it.
They've got some big money out there, and so where they can't spend money, they have to be able to fill good holes. And I mean, they've done it with Gavin Lux. Gavin Lux is a very Cavan Biggio like player. They've got 3 or 4 of them on that team, and they took a guy like Will Smith, who probably wasn't the biggest catching prospect when he was coming up, and turned to be, he's the best catcher in baseball right now, or according to, all of the pundits and the stats and all the rest of it. So, I mean, it's, like they give guys a chance to play. They always have. And, I think it's probably a good spot for him. The Diamondbacks might have been a good spot for him too, but, we get decent return. I mean, this guy's an unproven asset. Apparently, he has a very unhittable curveball, which is nice to add. He guy's a strikeout meister. Like he strikes out a lot of dudes, and so not unlike Biggio, they'll probably bring him to Buffalo, and then they'll bring him up. I know Biggio played a game already for the Dodgers, but I don't know when they'll get the kid they traded for in. I would think it would be soon. Fisher is his name, right?
Yes, it's Braden Fisher, and I actually am. I'll post it up in the chat for you too, for you to take a look at. But our friend Brian Crawford, that actually runs the Blue Jays website called jaysprospects.com, also at fansided.com, jaysjournal.com contributor. So you can see what I'm looking at here. But he has some wonderful, great things. And from meeting Brian a million years ago, he is a wonderful, talented person for having a good eye for Blue Jays prospects. Some passionate hits. He loves doing it. He had obviously good friends with a lot of the same people that I had met over the years, with Jesse Goldberg Strassler with the Lug Nuts, some of the other announcers and whatnot. But to that point, he is saying so far this season he's got 19 strikeout or 19 innings in AAA, 30 Ks.
Yeah.
He has been up and down a little bit. 4-seam fastball, 2-seam fastball, slider, and like you said, a wicked hook is what the exact wording is. So,
and I mean, you know, you hope
that time he's guessing it'll be a AAA, maybe a AA, depending on how things fall here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, maybe even the Jays and most teams are prone to do this, even when they trade for a minor leaguer who's been around the for a little bit. I think they do like to get them up, and they do like to maybe have a look and see what they've got, and you know, they like other people to see, and if they can, if this kid can bump out a couple of decent innings in relief, then you know the Jays have got that on file to say, hey, we had this kid, we brought him up, we gave him a shot, and he looks okay. We're going to send him back down now, but you know we did give him a shot, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with Biggio. Like, I mean, you know, good luck to him. I always liked him. You know, we made a lot of fun of him, which was great. You know, he was the joke of many, butt of many jokes.
He's still my old co-host. His Man Crush Monday is what he always used to call me, because we used to record on Mondays.
There you go.
So, but as far as his career with the Blue Jays, he has a .4 WAR this season, batted 204, 23 hits, 2 home runs, and 113 at bats. It's nothing to scream about, but he did manage to score 15 runs out of those ABs, which is something.
Yep.
Played some decent defense all over the place. Nothing stellar, but to that point, he's a good, slightly above average at all play positions. I'd say I still think second base is his home. So, but if you're talking about super utility role, he could. It still baffles me that he hasn't found a way to put it all together. And I think a lot of it's what you were saying. He's expected to carry too many gloves in his bat bag, right? You know, if he had a home, I'd be curious to see if it would have turned out any different. And maybe, just maybe, this piece to the Dodgers, the change of scenery. You talk about those kind of things all the time. A change of scenery thing might not be a bad thing for Cavan Biggio, especially being on a championship caliber team. The last time he was insanely talented and looking really, really damn well, and I'm picking any level throughout his tenure in pro baseball, it was when he was winning games all day, every day with Vlad, Bo in New Hampshire was the last time. And out of those three, he was the MVP in the Eastern League that year for the New Hampshire Fisher Cats. Yeah. It's a guy that still finished 5th in the Rookie Year Award in 2019. I know that's saying something. It wasn't the most ridiculous free agent class as, you know, everything goes, but at the end of the year, it still is something, you know. But interesting to see that he gets a chance to, funny enough, play with fellow teammate Teoscar Hernandez, who, by the way, in Fuego.
I can't get over this guy. You can't pitch to that guy right now. Like, I mean, he's just mashing. And when he's not, they're so scared of him, they're walking him. And he's got big depth behind him. So he's scoring a whole load of runs. I mean, the Dodgers look like geniuses going out and paying to get this guy. And it's too bad the Jays didn't see the forest for the trees on that one. Like, I feel like he wanted to come back. And I feel like, you know,
imagine what that offense, even a fraction of it would look like in this lineup right now, and the difference in the world it would make.
But it's, you know, it's like you said, sometimes being around stuff like being around a guy like Mookie or a guy like Shohei makes you better. You know, sometimes it shines a light on you that you're not as good, but other times, you sort of feel that, oh, I better pull my weight here, or I'm really going to stand out like a sore thumb. But yeah, kudos to him. I mean, he's playing like an animal, so it's amazing.
Yeah. I will, just like you, giant monster Teoscar Hernandez fan. I cannot say enough good things about Teoscar, especially the fun that I loved watching him bring to the dugout. So in his last 28 games, he has 6 home runs, 14 RBIs, batting cool 300. He's even stolen a base and has 7 doubles as well. So
is that okay, Coach?
I'm just glad that my fantasy baseball team is riding the Teoscar trade, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. That's when you come into the Dougie and you're just like, is that okay? Is that okay, Coach? Is that what you said? Doubles up the middle? Yeah.
I did done, you're right. Or with him, it's more of a right. So But that's the kind of fun that like I said, I miss, and I'm glad to see that at least some things that went well in the Red Blue Jays dugout to the other part to that with finally, like I said, getting a little bit of that fun back that from what you had when Teoscar was in the dugout. So let's go to the other elephant in the room. What in the world is going on with the management in this team and all the weird mixed messages that we're getting? All Cavan Biggio move to me says, okay, maybe it's time to break up the core. That's what I thought that might be the first piece to the pie here. But then you hear the Blue Jays are in on Luis Robert
Yeah,
to go forward with. It is insane the level of back and forth. Hence the reason I had to say mixed signals and stumbling offense continues this evening. The mixed signals to me are I don't think this team in any realm in the management ballpark has any clue what they want to do at the moment.
No.
And I think if you ironically look at it, we're just sitting outside 500. We're technically not far outside that third wild card. And you could make the argument that this team is obviously bad or about to break out. It's not much different than what we were talking about in 2015 before a bunch of trades happened and the whole farm was sold.
Yeah.
Give me some semblance of what you're thinking. Is there anything that you saw as a clue, Jason, that in the men's would tip your opinion was in either of those directions for what's going on?
Here's the big thing that I see right now. So I watch a lot of media that isn't Canadian and not, Blue Jay centric. And yes. I mean, the talk of the whole league right now is that, the Jays are tanking. They're going to trade Bo. And then I look and I'm like, okay, well, they're a game under 5 yet. Like you said, they're 3 games out of the Wild. Like, I mean, they're not tanking. Like, I mean, they're not, they're not the White Sox, but it's, I guess when you set a standard of how your team is and how your team plays, as soon as it drops below that standard, that you're running the ship into the beach. It's just craziness. So, I mean, I feel like any kind of mention of the Jays being interested in anyone right now that isn't a pitcher is just, it's complete smoke. It's maybe for Biggio had a decent amount of following as a Jay and maybe it's just throw a little, just like, hey, look over here, shiny little thing. We are trying to do this, look, don't look over there, look over here. But I don't see any cadence to it at all. I mean, the Jays have to address pitching first, starting pitching first, relief pitching second, and then you can go outside of there and start to look. But I mean, it was a very odd move for me to even see any kind of consideration. And to be frank with you, the amount of people and the amount of smart baseball people that are out there that are talking about Bo getting traded, I'm really starting to feel like there might be a strong, to your original point about the possibility of breaking up, for lack of a better term, the bloodline. And, it's one of those things where, Vladdy is not playing great, but he's playing okay. Bo is not playing great. He's playing okay. But I mean, if you were to shift Bichette to Houston or not Houston, the Braves or LA or, you know what I mean? Like I feel like his career would just explode. I feel like, unfortunately, management has put sort of this dark cloud over the Jays organization. And this is, I've been decently critical of management and Schnieder but not to the point where I was like, burn it down. And I'm kind of feeling like that. Yeah. I'm kind of feeling like there's something going wrong internally. They're not willing to address it. Maybe not during the season. Maybe they'll look to do it into the off season, but they're going to run the boat into the beach and everyone's going to go flying off. And then what do? You'll have people who are wanting out. You'll have guys that aren't willing to play for you anymore. And you'll start to implode like all those Yankees teams did for years and years and years. And it's interesting.
God forbid the team. Yeah, go ahead. Finish.
I was just going to say, it's interesting to see the Yankees being so successful now with it, bringing a guy in who I never really akin to big team builder, big, team guy. But apparently, based on what I've read and seen, Juan Soto is a massive team guy. And they have gotten behind this dude and they're like, it's like a whole new, and was surprised they stuck with their manager for one more year. I don't like him. I think he's a bad manager, but
I think Aaron Boone is definitely in that list.
They give the Yankees tend to give their management pretty good leashes to hang themselves with. And, he's going to come out of this looking like a rose this year. And I mean, he's got Aaron Judge. Somebody's got Aaron Judge on a different planet right now. Aaron Judge is
my fantasy baseball team in first place.
So, I mean, maybe there's some cadence to it. And maybe if they do trade Bo or pull the trigger, maybe they can pick something up that really helps them. But as it stands right now, they need a bunch of stuff. And frankly, they need to get their shit together when it comes to what's going on, because, to see Vogelback, nothing done with Vogelback boggles my mind. Like how he just stays. I love
Horowitz being up now.
Yeah.
Horowitz has been hitting too.
Yeah. And Ernie Clement, he's having his issues in the field. And I don't know if it's just ring rust or what it is, but he has to be more consistent if he's going to stay up. And I think they're kind of counting on some of these guys to stay up and stay through, but I mean, who knows? It's a bit of a mess.
I think that's what made Biggio unfortunately obsolete too at the end of the day too, because you're getting the same thing right now, regardless of the name. But Ernie Clement over here is a lot cheaper.
We had five Biggios.
Correct, because even if you wanted to go that much further, you bring Addison Barger up. Is he going to do what he was doing, or who? Any all the above? Insert name here. To your point. So the one thing that has been amazing is, like I said, Spencer Horowitz has got 7 hits in 5 games.
Yeah, I know.
Like Johnny O.
I don't know if you watched I think it was the last game, but that guy is. So one of the things that we've worked on a lot with my kids team is 2-strike hitting. Is cutting your swing down and just putting contact on it. And especially when you're dealing with velocity, like if somebody's throwing hard, if you can keep your bat in the zone for longer, you give yourself a better chance of getting a hit. And Horowitz didn't hit anything with any kind of gusto, but he's getting hits because he's keeping his bat in the zone. He's keeping his head on it, and he's just delivering the bat through. And I mean, he doesn't run fast, so he has to hit them so they land somewhere that he can't get thrown out.
Yes.
But and there was one, I don't know if you were watching the game yesterday, but they showed a highlight. Vladdy hit a ball to, I want to say it's deep short. The shortstop made an awesome play going the wrong way and then threw Vladdy out. And they showed it in real time from an angle from out in center field. And Vladdy went by the base so fast, it would be frightening to see those dreads coming down at that speed. And I mean, I think that's probably the fastest I've ever seen him run, and he was out. But he was
but it's still,
he just went through the.
Do you think it's like you got a full steam of Vlad coming at you? Do you think that's just like Arnold Schwarzenegger like crouching from the Predator, going, "Oh, come hurry up and kill me!"
Now.
So I would think that's got to be a little bit of what it was, because you see the dreads going everywhere and whatnot. But to that point, I'm just glad Vladdy took it up a notch there. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, he was trying to make something happen and it just didn't work out. But I give him credit for at least trying to take that next bag and get the team going a little bit.
Yeah.
So it would have been a completely different thing if it was safe and he gets up, he's like, yes. It would have been completely night and day for a team that ended up barely losing yesterday. So, but I want to go back here a bit, where we were a few seconds ago. So rewind and come back. Blue Jays in the quote unquote wild card hunt. And I just want to paint a picture. So like we mentioned, there are currently 3 games out, 2 games under 500. We're 33 and 35 after yesterday. Just like most of the teams actually in the wild card race currently right now, it's kind of laughable that everybody's either 4 and 6, 5 and 5. 4 and 6 or 5 and 5 over the last 10 games. Like we were talking about Baltimore being the only exception. They are currently holding the first wild card space, 9 games even ahead of that 3 that we currently have. Kansas City Royals still looking like a wonderful team. Cinderella story, as much as I hate the idea. At least it's not the Astros having that kind of piece.
Yeah, true.
Then the Minnesota Twins. And then ironically and surprisingly, the Boston Red Sox are an exactly 500 team and keeping us in the basement of our division, right? So it's kind of
It's
So,
bizarro.
Yeah.
When you
And then the
lift your head
teams
up,
right after that are the Detroit Tigers, who have the same record as us. It's the world champion Texas Rangers, one less game than us. Oh, sorry, I forgot we're not in the right basement because I'm just assuming the Rays are doing Rays things. The exact opposite of that this year, that the Rays are in the bottom basement. But to that point, there's a telling story here when I'm looking at the advanced standing stuff. The run differential category, very specifically to where you were going a few minutes with the pitching. Right now, the best team, obviously, the Orioles, is a plus 107 run differential. Kansas City Royals, plus 60. Minnesota Twins, plus 6. Okay, that means their record's probably about what it should be because they're, right there and even. The Boston Red Sox have a plus 29. We have a negative 35. And then a negative 4 for the Tigers, and then a plus 1 for the Rangers. And that's, I'll give you one more. And this is where I think the Rays are actually broken this year. Negative 63 for the Tampa Bay Rays in run differential.
Yeah, and the Rays can't seem to keep a lead either. Like they're not dissimilar to the Jays, where they, they'll get 3 or 4, and they just can't seem to keep that amount of a lead. It's nothing safe in Tampa right now. You'd be up 8. And
so that math for that run differential puts us at the expected win-loss record should be 30-38. That's 6 more losses than we currently have. And then just to put that in the picture here to give you some scale, the Rays would be a 27-41 record. And the opposite end of that scale is obviously the Baltimore Orioles are expected to be a 45-23 win team. The Boston Red Sox, though, this is where I think it's funny because really there's 50 runs I guess it's 60 runs that really separate the two teams. I had mentioned that we're a 30-38 team according to expected win-loss. The Boston Red Sox are an expected 37-31 record, which would obviously increase that gap for them to be at that point. And then actually with that expected record would actually put them above the Minnesota Twins right now for that third wild card spot. So that's the picture I wanted to paint for you. Yeah, how many of those teams can this Blue Jays core actually get over to get into that wild card spot?
Well, see, I think there's a couple of things that are going to happen. I mean, some of those teams are on fire right now. We've seen Minnesota get hot. We've seen the Royals get hot. All those teams in that sort of just ahead of the Jays group are kind of hot right now. The Orioles have been hot for a bit. So here's what I think you're going to see. You're going to see a little bit of the Orioles falling off. The Orioles don't have a good solid closer with Batista hurt. So they're giving up wins based on trying to go to Kimbrel and a few other. They've got this patchwork going, but it isn't really working.
Yeah.
But
you think they're one of the 3 wild cards is a lock or not?
I'd say yes. I'd say if not a lock, they'll move up past that into actually being in a playoff spot. So
Roger that.
If they do that. And then I think probably if I was to pick 2, I mean, that's super hard to go. It's super hard to not go Royals Twins. I mean,
it really is. Those
if
teams
I was
are
making
solid
a bet right
teams.
now, it would be that, I would think. And then, if the Jays get hot, then I think maybe based on what I've seen, it would be Twins Jays.
Yes.
The Royals are good, but again, they have a lot of issues that Bobby Witt Jr. can't get them out of. And, they've got a 75-year-old Sal Perez who's leading them in home runs, I think.
Yes.
But,
is he going to do that all year?
They're a team that could fall apart. Yeah. They could fall apart at any second. One injury, and, and Detroit, I can't see Detroit having enough talent to keep the wherewithal going. But I mean,
they sent one of their top prospects down the other day too. It was Green they sent down.
Yeah. So it's.
So it was Torkelson. It was Torkelson they sent down.
Really?
Spencer Torkelson, the first baseman.
I love him. He's one of my favorites. Whenever I play, my son's MLB Diamond Dynasty team has Torkelson at 1, and he just crushes.
He tees up,
and it's a hilarious name as well too. And anytime you get to use the word torque, it's pretty funny. But it's one of those things where the whole of the American League has been so inconsistent. it's some of the worst baseball. It's entertaining to watch. I mean, I turned on that Jays game and it's 1-0 Jays. I turn to do something. I come back. It's 5-1 for the Brewers. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to turn this off. And I'm like, wait a second. That's what my mom always does. And I'm not going to do it.
So it sucks. I don't know if that lady.
But it was a really exciting game to watch. Like they had every opportunity to tie that thing and win it. And, you know, if you're going to lose like that, you know, lose exciting.
They get blown out. Yeah. Lose exciting. You're making me feel like, you know, PTSD from being a Buffalo Bills fan for a minute there. Just lose big, right?
Yeah. Lose
big. But as far as those kind of things go, I think that let's take that same thing I just put into consideration there with the actual, you know, run differential, the expected losses, the records of the teams around us. You can't disregard that fact that they might try to get better and try to make one more go at it. This would be a flip of the script kind of thing at this point. You know what I mean? There is no reason that the Blue Jays should be that close to a playoff spot at this point with the level of baseball we've been getting. You can't. You made the joke about Bobby Witt Jr. saving the Royals. David Schnieder can't save this offense every goddamn night.
Nope.
Or Danny Jansen with a clutch home run. You know, Vlad's been doing great and he's doing awesome things, but it's that this team can't drive in runs, and that's exactly what that run differential is. So if let's say the hypothetical, that trade that we were hearing the rumor on this past week with Luis Robert Jr. for the White Sox actually comes to any level of fruition. Like I said, that's a guy that has the talent to jump into this lineup, be a DH, play some outfield at all three outfield positions, and maybe actually help this team mash. I would think that I'm in a dugout with Vlad and Bo and everybody would light a fire under his ass for what's going on in Chicago.
And you know what it does? It gives them an option to take Springer out of the lineup. George Springer is clearly something is wrong. He's either hurt or he's old or he's hurt and he's old or he's just given it all, right? Like, I mean, he's at the point now. He takes his hat off. You know, he looks exhausted. He looks like he's, you know, last year he didn't look efforted doing what he was doing. And this year it looks like he's dragging a piano around everywhere he goes. Like, I mean, he looks like the fun of baseball has been sucked right out of him. And I mean, that happens. It's not like the Jays have been the Jays haven't been terrible, but he's been pretty bad. And when you're old and you're bad, then the weight starts to feel like, I mean, Justin Turner, you can see it on his face right now. Like Turner came out of the gates great. He was like, I'm going to have another great year. Here we go. No, we're not. So, if you're going to make a deal like that, like I have no sympathy for Jays management for money spent. Go ahead and spend it. You might as well. You were going to spend the farm on Ohtani. So I don't care what you're going to spend it. So if you can make a deal like that allows George to sit some innings, it allows for a little tinkering around the you know, moving guys up, moving guys down, trying Varsho higher in the batting order, you know, maybe gives Kiermaier a break out there too. You know, who knows? I mean, it's the old part of our lineup is really starting to show its teeth. Not too different than the Dallas Stars from this year. The Stars had an amazing year. They go into the playoffs. They look incredible. Their young guns are firing. And then they come up against Edmonton and they exploited the old guys. Pavelski and Jamie Benn and Suter looked like they were 40-year-olds playing hockey, which they are. And so if you can do that, and that's, you know, I mean, Kiermaier can still run. He's fast as all get out. Yeah. And I mean,
George, there's a different story with Kiermaier in this lineup too. You're not expecting him to play 162, and we already know that. And honestly, this has been to prove my point right from last year. Kevin Kiermaier's looking more like the last couple of years of Tampa Bay Kevin Kiermaier than his first year of his Blue Jays at the moment. So, but to your point, what could help this offense? And you talk about getting Springer healthier by letting him play, you know, kind of doing what Turner's doing right now with Vogelbach or Spencer Horwitz, right? There's a little bit of a rotation going on there where they're they're going to get the best baseball out of them once they get them hitting because they're going to be rested. They're going to be ready to go. It could lead to better things. But the reason I think there's a little bit of smoke to the fire of the Luis Robert Jr. part is the fact that it doesn't screw this team going forward. So Springer goes off in the sunset. Fine, great. You have Robert set up for this season, next season. He actually has 2 club options. So he could technically be a Blue Jay for, until he's a free agent at the age of 30.
Right. And you're getting
the
great
best
years.
baseball for this kid ahead of him. Exactly. And right now he hasn't played on a good team.
Nope.
So he hasn't played on a good team since his first couple of seasons in the league where he wasn't full-time playing, and he's also a guy that's had injury history. So as far as what the value of him in trade could be, there might be something there. The only thing that I think hurts the Blue Jays for going after him and doing anything on this is if they get in a bidding war with prospects on somebody. What I'd hate for getting Luis Robert into this dugout would take like trading Ralphus Martinez. You know what I mean? I don't think it's gonna take that. I think you get a smaller package with more guys.
Yeah.
To equal that talent and get Robert, because the biggest catch that the White Sox have is they just need bodies. They need a young talent to continue churning in the right direction over the next few years. They are a full rebuild, and trading somebody like Luis Robert Jr. could get them a couple of good, decent prospects that could help the major league team.
And you could even offer up a Horowitz or a Clement or like guys who have some major league metal already. And I think that the White Sox would be good with that. And maybe something decent from the prospect pool. And
yes,
that would be using one. Like I feel like with all of the push all the way up to here, with Biggio, with Espinal, with all of this stuff, I feel like we missed the boat on them. We had opportunities to move them when they were playing. Like we should have moved Espinal the second he was nominated to the All-Star team. Gone. Bye. See ya. Like we can get
as much as I love them on this team. Correct.
Yeah.
Max
we can get max volume for you, and you're going to be able to go somewhere probably better than you would have thought you're going to go when we were going to trade you. So, I mean, I haven't heard his name
and
once.
Maybe he would have continued riding it if it changed, because you remember how that season went. He didn't play anywhere near as much that second half of the season, so all the value went down. So yeah, go ahead.
That's what they're doing a bit though. They're holding on to these guys past their expiry date, or not expiry date, but at least the shine has come off.
High prime value, correct. Yeah. So and you talk about that flip side of that coin. Go ahead.
You'd hate to see somebody like Schnieder or Horowitz or Barger or Martinez, the guys that we don't want to trade. You'd hate to see them get thrown in on one, and you're like, God, like damn it, don't do it again. Like don't trade Varsho again. Don't try and get Varsho again and give up something like that. Was a huge give up. Let's just be honest with you. Varsho could hit 500 for the rest of the year. I don't know if people, and I know that Moreno was struggling this year, but I guarantee you in the long run, Gabby Moreno is going to be a more valuable player than Dalton Varsho is. It's just
and reality. If we had won a World Series in this time frame, I would have called it a fair trade. But now the fact that you haven't had that contribution to him be a championship winning team, even a team that had won one game in the playoffs in the last 4 appearances. So I think there's a shakeup that needs to happen. And like I said, maybe somebody like Luis Robert is that guy. And you talk about somebody that the shine's coming off of. This is a guy that in his rookie season was number 2 in the Rookie of the Year voting, Gold Glove in his first year, and then after that, nothing, or mediocre at best. Right? Yep. He ain't getting enough games. The COVID season is the only one that really did him any pluses. And in the midst of this whole thing, he was an all-star and a Silver Slugger in 2023, where he's had his only full season, 145 games. He's only played in 15 games this season, Jason. Yeah. If you are making a trade, I just think that that's high upside because it's a guy that maybe can come in and do something. But at the end of the day, I don't think I have to give up as much for him, like I said, unless you get a bidding war going.
Yeah.
So I would be all over the idea of getting a guy that, even in the midst of all of that, it's honestly a very Danny Jansen looking career.
Yeah.
From the baseball reference page. He's a 12.6 WAR player with where did I lost it? 276 batting average and 80 home runs. And that's I lost how many games? 382 games. Like I said, that's honestly not terribly different than the line that you would get looking at Danny Jansen for that matter. But to that point, Blue Jays fans love Danny Jansen, myself included. And I'm hoping that he continues to run with the strides. I want to see him actually stay a Blue Jay and go from there. But I'm also worried that maybe he's one of those guys that gets involved in a trade, and because he can match and he can do a good job catching. But let's talk some other things that could help this team, because there's a guy that could be coming back that you and I were rather high on before he got hurt. He pitched an amazing 10 strikeout game the other night for the Buffalo Bisons, and that is A-Rod might be pitching this weekend.
I saw.
Yeah. So
that's a great line for him. It's great to see. And apparently, like, obviously I didn't see it, but apparently he was just throwing smoke. Like the report that I saw, what they were talking about, like some guys get hurt and, they go do their rehabs and they come back, like, a bit like Manoah did, where it was meek to start, started to get a little better. I feel like J-Rod, or sorry,
Yay.
got him now too. But I feel like he's going to come back with a chip on his shoulder. I feel like he thought that there was fair expectation put on him, and he was living up to said expectation. And then the injury was surprising, and it sucks, and all the rest of it. But he looks like he's coming back mad, which, he
looks angry. I'm trying to get the video up right now.
It's never the worst thing to be angry. I mean, I think Kikuchi has pitched much better angry. And he wasn't getting calls in that game the other day, and he just got faster and meaner and more cut. And by the way, that was some of the worst umpiring I've ever seen. Like, I mean, we're talking both teams. It was embarrassing. And, like balls 6 inches out of the strike zone being called strikes. And there was one right down Main Street. The catcher for the Brewers didn't move his glove, and there was no sound made. And I think it was Vladdy actually was batting, and he looked back, and the catcher looked up, and the ump's still staring forwards like this. And he calls it a ball, and everyone's like, what? Like,
it's very Angel Hernandez, right? Like, so the one thing I want to make sure I show too, because this is actually the fun way that same game ended, because like the one thing that sucked was he didn't get the win out of it, whole thing. And I love that the internet's got 9,000 commercials on minor league baseball website. But so there's your free promo, Apple and T-Mobile,
Yeah, there you go.
So, but Addison Barger ends up getting a squeaker single to win this ball game. And the hustle is what ends up winning this ball game, even though he eats a pile of dirt after first base because he tripped or he just gave up. I'll give you which way or the other. But the fact that the Buffalo Bisons, I forget what the minor league night players thing that they were doing, that is like the superhero stuff, I think. Oat Milkers, that was right, as a promo. So,
yeah.
But the fact that they got a chance to do that, and you can always spot Addison Barger out of a crowd, he's got the best Boba Fett looking impression hair I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And so I need to hurry up and grow mine back out. I got the swish going. That's it. You're all set.
Yeah, I got really bad hair right now.
You're just trying to be cool like your kid. I get it.
Yep. Yeah.
So do you think that let's go back to that run differential talk. Do you think if we get somebody back like J-Rod and get away from this weird bullpen day, that's your solution? I think you were kind of hitting that for success to close said gap to possibly get into the possible playoff hunt here. What do you think? Is that the solution?
I think so. I think that is a huge helper. And then I also think that with Bowden Francis pitching better, I think that Zach Pop, aside from the yesterday, he's been good.
Yes.
Francis has looked much better. Cabrera has looked much better. And Jimmy Garcia is basically untouchable. So I mean, if you can get them to those points, we can win games with the guys we've got. And Chad Green looks good too. I mean, he gave up a couple the other night too, but I mean, that's always going to happen. I think we're hypercritical of the relief staff right now, and for lots of good
reasons. And they're having to wear it.
Yeah. But they are coming in situations where they can win games. They can hold off and it seems like to me, the first batter in every one of those innings, like Tim Meza last night, looked terrible. And, like, he hasn't looked good all year. I don't know that Tim Meza has had a really good outing all year long. But I mean, if you can start to get Francis throwing well, I think he alleviates a lot of problems. Francis he's so important for the Jays to get him running and eating some innings. And then the other guys have to keep, like Pop has to keep pitching well, and Cabrera needs to come and really bring it. Like, he can't just be a one-trick pony to come in and go against two lefties and give up a big hit. He needs to, he needs to stick through and do an inning and a half. Like Jimmy Garcia the other night gets the last out in the 8th and then just mows through them in the 9th. And it's like, good. That's what you're supposed to do. So they're starting to get it a bit. Gosman, I think, is coming around. He certainly looks like
he looked a lot better with his splitter. It looked like he was finding the bottom of the zone better last start. So that was encouraging.
And I think that I've watched a fair amount, and the umpiring has been poor. I hate to blame it on the umps, but it has been poor umpiring. And, in the past, I think that Gosman and Bassett are nibblers. And so they nibble on corners, they try and nibble. I mean, nobody throws it right down the middle, hoping it doesn't get hit. But they would be getting those calls last year, and they're just not this year. And so it makes a big difference. Like Kikuchi wasn't getting the calls with that terrible ump yesterday or the day before, whatever it was. And I mean, the guys are just walking, and you're like, okay, those aren't. They're showing the pitch cast, and they're like, well, those aren't. They're strikes. So this outcome is totally different based on what I'm seeing, and yet we still have to deal with what we're getting. I always say control the controllables, and you can't control that. But it was nice to see. It's nice to see the Jays having some fight in these games, like the one where they got one hit, I think, or whatever. That was pretty cool. But
they only had 3 home runs total over the last week. Period. So if that gives you any ballpark of where the offense was coming, and that was honestly, I don't think any of that was outside of David Schnieder hitting that one yesterday. I don't think any of those happened in Milwaukee at all.
No. I mean,
Kevin Kiermaiers was in the previous series. Kirk. No, I take that back. I think Kirk's was in the first game.
Kirk's playing well right now.
Milwaukee.
Kirk's hitting the ball well right now.
And the biggest thing I like about Kirk is he's starting to find the middle of the field and the opposite field. When he was on those couple of years for us, that was what he was doing, and that's what I saw him doing really well in the minor leagues. So,
and he's hard to get out right
honestly, that's what Bo is finally doing.
Yes.
You talk about the hottest guy in Blue Jay baseball right now. He might be the best hitter right now, as he had 7 hits over the last week. So, him and Spencer Horowitz were the only ones that had that many hits last week. IKF is still doing IKF things, including was it a walk-off on Saturday?
Yeah, he had one.
I don't remember. Yeah. So, but either way, IKF has had 6 RBIs, and 5 of those were in that one game. So over the last week. But think of those kind of things. That we're talking about how this team struggles for offense, and those 2 of those guys that we just called out are actually new role players, right?
Yeah.
Spencer Horowitz and IKF.
Yeah.
You haven't seen Dalton Varsho do a ton over the last week. No RBIs, no anything. He scored a few runs. Vlad Jr. tapered off this week finally, but he had 2 doubles of his 3 hits over the last week. They ran into some good pitching. It really comes down to that. And the Brewers are a good team. They are a legit first place team right now.
And I'm doubling down on my call on their City Connects jersey. Those hats are terrible. Jerseys are great. Hats are awful, but I mean, the Brewers are a full complete team, and I mean, who would have thought that when they started? They were just selling everybody off, and they were it looked like they were burning it down. And then all of a sudden, Christian Yelich is like, hey, guys, I'm really good at baseball. Do you guys want me to start playing baseball again? And they were like, Christian, you're still here? And so, I mean, and Christian Yelich looks like he's rewound the clock. He's not that old, but he looks like he's gone back 5 years. I mean, he's fast.
You remember the
strong.
Commercials with him and Bellinger back in the day?
Yeah.
When they were both at Yelly and Belly.
Yeah.
All-Star Game MVP, voting stuff. That was fun. I missed that kind of goofing around that they had in those commercials. But he's looking more like that guy than he has the other guy for the last couple of seasons. But I think that the style of baseball changed. Craig Counsell was a great manager. I will not knock that one bit. But what Mark Kotsay's got them doing is just wrecking minds of pitchers. They're being gritty at the plate. They are stealing bases. They are playing a different brand of baseball in Milwaukee than honestly, most of the teams in Major League Baseball. And they're going to keep winning unless somebody catches up on it.
Do you know who else is playing like that? The team we're playing next.
Yeah. Stupid Cleveland Guardians, maybe.
Holy. And I don't know if you've looked ahead at the schedule, but who in their right mind? So I don't know if you've seen it. So here's the next games. So they play. Let me just get to it here. They play Cleveland, Cleveland, Boston, Cleveland, and then to change things up, they play Boston, and Boston. Like,
so change it up. Not big deal.
Who made that schedule? Like, did they just did the Excel sheet just break for they were like, I already sent that in.
Shuffle it around quick, get it over with. So you're not wrong, Jason. But at least the nice thing is when they're going to get some home, they're going to get some away. There's a nice mix of the home and away over the next few weeks and whatnot. But to that point, we're playing a team that we 100% have a control of our own destiny in for 7 of those games against the Boston Red Sox. And then you have the flip of that where we're hoping not to get destroyed by a team that, like the Milwaukee Brewers, has been one of the best teams in Major League Baseball. And the Cleveland Guardians are a scary team right now. And nobody expected this kind of thing. I think everybody knew that they could be a good team, but they're hitting on all cylinders, doing all the things that the Blue Jays wish they could be right now.
Did you see Class A hit that guy in the head with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball yesterday?
That looked like it was not going to be a good time for anybody. I can't believe
he just got up
out on his own power.
He wore it like a champ.
Yep.
Amazing.
It was insane. So I think I would have been dead, knocked out for the count, and kind of like I got in a fight with Mike Tyson. That's happening with somebody too. But like I said, the Cleveland Guardians, you mentioned it, they got a great closer. You have Jose Ramirez, who's been one of the better hitters in baseball, along with all these other kids, David Fry and whatnot, that have found a way. You have the Stephen Kwans that are the scrappy young players, too. And then they have pitching. All their young pitchers are doing well. Yeah. Remember, this is a team that at the beginning of the season, everybody thought they were going to just dust out and then trade Shane Bieber halfway through the season. They're not trading Shane Bieber now. It's just how it is. So it's just crazy to see that. This is why you love baseball and why you hate it at the same time, right?
Yep.
We're the team that was projected to be well, and I'd rather almost be the underdog on anything anymore, and that's why I'm looking forward to football season because nobody thinks the Bills are going to do shit. But on that note, this is what happens when you show up to the ball game every day, and just as a starting pitcher, every 5th day, you don't know what you're going to get. You can have your best stuff. Or you can see what some of the things that Chris Bassett's been trying to just work with and get through an outing and make sure the bullpen doesn't get blown up. But that was something that the Blue Jays actually did well over the last week. The starting pitching definitely showed back up.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like you said, like Bassett's not throwing the skin off the ball. Gosman's not throwing the skin off the ball. I think Kukuc and Barrios are both pitching very well. But you're right. They realize that they've got some holes, and they're trying to push as hard as they can to get them through and as far as they can, so they can try and win the game. They realize that when some of these guys come in, the chances of the first ball or first couple of balls pitched going into the home run stands are fairly high. And so when you're not rocking with any confidence about how that's going to end up, it always makes for a tough road to hoe. And hats off to the Jays starters for really buckling down and really trying to push this team over the line a little bit to try and get them to 500 and pursuing that last wild card spot. But they're going to need more than that. And when you've got guys, like Springer and like Kiermaier that are going big offers, I mean, you just can't have that at the major league level. Not with the talent that you have sitting either on the bench or sitting in Buffalo, waiting to come up and eat. And, and Danny Burgers can't have one good game every 20. It just doesn't work. I think you could put anybody.
Even if he wins it for us that day.
Yeah,
it's not helping all the way.
Could have been anybody. Could have, anybody can be a hero any given game. And Vogelbach gives us nothing in return in the field. We can't use him anywhere. And so if you're not going to hit, then you have then become pretty useless. So, I think that the thing for me, and I hope this happens, I hope this Biggio thing is the start of them being willing to start doing some stuff, to start, get rid of Vogelbach, see if you can trade Springer to somebody who might want him. See if maybe you can move Kiermaier. See, there's got to be some pieces we can move out to bring some guys in that might change the canter of what the room is, the buggy is like, and
just changing the complexion at this point, right?
Yeah, what's the worst thing that happens if you make a trade and the guy that comes in hits the ball well for a month? There's nothing wrong with that, and
no,
it's starting to get to a point of frustration that, I'm glad that Vladdy's back and I'm glad he's playing better, but he's not all-star Vladdy. Bo's not all-star Bo. If we had to pick, do we even have a player that's going to the all-star game? At this point, is it maybe
Barrios better go? If Jose
I would say it's Barrios.
The all-star game, I'm going to be fucking angry because regardless of how the team's playing.
Right now, gun to your head, not a pitcher, who goes? Schneider?
That's about my best bet, and that's really stretching it.
And that's sad. It's sad to look at our lineup and think to ourselves that we can't, if we were doing a Braves podcast or a Padres podcast or a Giants podcast or Phillies podcast. Holy crap, are the Phillies ever good right now?
Yeah. But if I had to vote, I'd probably still be sending Vlad just because it's going to be a show, regardless of 7 home runs. He is, quote unquote, still at this point the best hitter on this team. He's got the most hits, a lot of doubles. Home runs haven't translated. He's got 30 RBIs. David Schneider, I love him to death. Don't get me wrong, but trying to pick an all-star out of a lineup, and I just have it's my personal issues and all this terrible stuff of what's gone on and how I still think baseball should be played because I love people like Tony Gwynn that can actually hit for a batting average. I have a hard time sending a person that's batting 229 to the All-Star game.
But you have to send somebody. Every team is represented, which again, I think is stupid in some cases. If you're so bad that you can't even have somebody that's decent enough to go, then don't have somebody go. We'll have a bat boy.
So this equation to the White Sox. Like I said, at least we have a couple of guys I'd say could go.
Yeah.
But the White Sox right now, oh my God, what are you going to, half their team's been hurt all year, and it's been a rotating door everywhere, and
But I guess on the plus side of things, the Dodgers are going to have 6 guys there, and the Phillies will have 5 or 6 guys there. So maybe that's the whole National League team, and maybe the other Dregs can just move over to the National League and play on the American League team. Acuna can switch over.
This case in point, look how many Orioles are going to be there, how many Yankees are going to be on there. I would be shocked, honestly, if the whole outfield of the Yankees doesn't somehow get in right now, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
It's just because everybody's going to vote them in. But you can make a better argument for some guys like IKF even on our lineup, or Varsho having 10 home runs. Everybody's about the same. And I said, the reason I turn around and pick Vladdy out of the pile, to your point, if I had to pick a hitter, is because his actual normal old school baseball card stats actually still do add up. That's kind of why I pick it.
Yeah. And I mean, he's the representative of the Jays. Like, I mean, everybody knows who he is. And so I think you're right there. I mean, I was kind of making more of a mockery of it. But...
No, you're not wrong. But at the end of the day, I just think it's hilarious, too, because Bo Bichette's got a whole 2 less RBIs on him. Everybody's, it's falling.
But that's what we do.
So,
we rip these guys apart
yes.
because our expectation is so high. And, you know,
correct.
We either as a fan base, and it's hard because I mean this is a perfect juxtaposition of what we're talking about. You're in Buffalo, I'm in Vancouver. We're both Blue Jays fans at a very high level. I'm going to go to the Canadiens game tomorrow, and I would say that 70% of the crowd will be wearing something Blue Jay related, whether they're fans or not. We don't have another team to cheer for. And unlike the NFL, where a lot of our fans go to the Seattle Seahawks, unfortunately, I find that if you, even at any level like baseball, it's the Blue Jays first, and then you might like somebody else secondarily based on the fact that you're either not a huge fan or you cheer for somebody on the West Coast because you don't get to see the Jays games. You miss them at work or whatever. But you know, I don't really, and I think that's where the Dodgers pick up a lot of fans. And I'll be honest with you. I think there's a lot of Canadian Dodger fans because they have to pick a team that's on the West Coast or from the middle over. And they're like, oh, these guys are the best. They've got Mookie, they've got Shohei, they're always in the playoffs. So why not? But you know, for the Jays fans right now, you know, I don't look at Twitter. I don't listen to any of that stuff. I don't listen to. What I do see, though, is I do see real fans on real accounts finally saying something needs to happen. And I think that if you listen to us or if you listen to any of the other podcasts, I think one of the resounding things that we're hearing, people aren't like, I'm not all filled with rage. I'm not like I was in the playoffs last year. Like I was mad in the playoffs last year.
Deserved.
Right now, I'm at the point where I'm like, just do something about it. Like you have the opportunity now to fix this thing before we get too far down the hole. And we've been toying with this for the last month. And I'm sure that head office is like, look, we're doing fine. I mean, we haven't really made any changes.
We're still 500.
We're still 500. We're 3 games out. But I mean, I think if you're going to make
there's only so much optimism there.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the problem.
And if the city if the city of Toronto, first of all, turns on the Jays, that ripple effect will go a long way. And, you know, if you've got a team like the Phillies this year that are obviously going to do well, they've got Bryce Harper, who's a handsome, you know, swashbuckling guy out there. They've got Marsh. They've got Trey Turner. They got all these guys that you can get behind and cheer for. And that's why secondarily, the Phillies are my team. They've been my secondary team for a long time. Yeah. I'm a big Mike Schmidt guy, but the Phillies have always been scrappy. And, you know, through Lenny Dykstra, through, you know, all of the years of the Phillies being the Phillies, you know, they're finally at a point where, I mean, I think they're the best team in baseball right now. I mean,
I would not make that argument. And I just think it's hilarious that every good Phillies team looks like the 93 ball club. Gas House Gang, like kind of like bruisers that just showed up from the bar stool and say, hey, you know what? Let's hit some dingers. So, but I think that's fun. And I love that because, and that was one of those weird vibes in 93. It was almost like, the bar guys versus the classy. Yeah. Because the Blue Jays guys come all proper. There's no, you know, there's no tobacco chew blown up all over their jerseys. There's not holes in their knees. And but that was one of the better World Series, obviously. And I'm not just saying that. As a Blue Jays fan, it was very back and forth. And if the Phillies that year had one more pitcher that could do anything remotely like Curt Schilling could have done, we might not have won.
Yeah,
I agree with you there. Simple. That was the only difference. They basically till the wheels fall off for Curt Schilling.
I often say this: you can win it. Like the World Series is a tournament, and so you can win a tournament if your best 3 pitchers play well in at least one of the series. You will win those series if they are dominant, and that's what happens if you watch the World Series classically. a pitcher has a really good outing and it really sets the tone. And then the second guy does too. And so a pitcher can win you a series, but it can't win you, it can't win you a championship because you have to be deeper than that. And so what the Jays are looking at right now is, and this is what they ran into last year. I think they were borderline deep enough. Had they got by Minnesota, I think they would have been in trouble no matter where they went. But this year, like coming into this group of series that we got, the Guardians, Red Sox, Red Sox, Yankees. If they don't make some changes right now, the next month, the month through the end of July and into middle of June is, other way around, June to July is going to be a nightmare. They are going to. You might as well just tie a cinder block to Ace's foot and throw them into Lake Ontario because they will not make it out of this alive.
You're saying they're swimming with the fishes if they don't find a way to do something well with this, huh?
I think they're 6 or 7 games back if they don't.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I think they need to find a way to win these because, well, if you talk about what you want to do with this team, you have a perfect litmus test, right? You have a chance to see if this team really can compete even with the little bit that we got, right? If they cannot find a way to take it to and at least pressure the Guardians this week, then I still think regardless of the fact that the Boston Red Sox are currently a 500 team, there's just as many flaws there as there is good, just like the Blue Jays. So there's a series there that we should win, I think, in my opinion. Guardians, both series are going to be rough. The Yankees, unfortunately, we're going to get swept, is my fear. So you have to take those 4 series to school. And that's just because right now the Yankees, unless they're hitting guys in the next 2 weeks, they cannot do anything wrong. And their 5th starter, this Lucas Hill kid, has been on fire. And here's the other thing that's really going to piss me off, probably, because this is Blue Jays luck in a nutshell. That'll be right when Garrett Cole comes back in that series. He'll throw a fucking no-hitter for 7 innings, and then we're screwed.
Yeah, or else we go the other way. I mean, the Jays have proved that against the tougher teams this year, they have really fought well. They fought hard. They've been in the games. I think they've taken some of the other series a little too lightly and been beat. And I feel like what they're showing against Milwaukee is that they're starting to get ready to dig in. And I mean, they didn't win the series, but they were competitive and worked hard and made it hard. You could see that Milwaukee was working. I mean, their pitchers were up there sweating bullets and going 20, 30 pitches over what they'd done their last start. And so if that's what it takes to start, like digging your heels in and crawling up out of the hole, then do it. If not, then, like we said, but you can't keep your head above water with the team we have right now. Something has to change, whether it's Martinez up, Barger up, and a couple of guys sitting, or it's some trades. Something has to happen, and they need to do it now so these guys can get acclimatized to the team and know who the guys are on the bench to get through the end of July.
I want to go back to one little point in where you were saying before we do Picks the Click and get the hell out of here. One thing I want to say about the Brewers series. They put the work in. Hard work usually pays off. And you could see that in spades through that series. Like you said to your point of watching the Milwaukee pitchers really get worked. And the fact that even in a game like yesterday where we jumped out to a quick 1-0 lead on a David Schnieder home run, that was a very back and forth game regardless of the 5-4 loss, right? So you took one of the best teams in the National League to the brink. Unfortunately, you didn't come out on the right side of it. All that stuff you just took and learned in this series against the Brewers, you take to play against the Guardians this weekend. It's that simple. Hard work usually pays off. And hopefully that is what's starting to transfer. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But to your point, it's going to be put up or shut up, I think, over the next 3 weeks.
Yep.
Because otherwise I have a strange feeling we're going to be having a very different show format in the next 3 weeks. Meaning, hey, did you see who we're going to possibly get in minor league guys? And it'll be all double dipping for prospects.
Welcome to Phillies Talk. Welcome to Phillies Talk with Craig and Jason.
Here's the blooper reel with Craig, Jason, and Jose Canseco hitting the ball off his head. So anyway, it's Fix the Flick time. So Rough week, man. That's all I'm gonna say. So I picked Bo Bichette, who had 7 hits last week, but didn't have a ton other than that. You had George Springer, yeah. And then we had in the guest spot Justin Turner from our friend last week, the Hack.
You win.
So
You win.
I think I took that 2 weeks in a row. This is so weird. So we're actually tied now, my friend, all across the board.
There we go.
Spot 3, Jason 3, me 3, and Ken in his retirement role still got 1. so I'll take the win. But right now, are no guests here because we had an unfortunate cancellation. And that is a true fact, by the way. I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. That's why I forgot it was Thursday. Alejandro Kirk was quote unquote the worst everyday starter last week. So he's the only person off the board in the guest spot filler for this week. Jason, your pick. Who you think's gonna have the best week in Blue Jays baseball against the Guardians and the Boston Red Sox before our next show?
I am going to go with the man that's slightly cross-eyed in the outfield with our Dalton Varsho.
Dalton. Okay. All right. I'm gonna just, I'm gonna ride my own words. I said I've been dying for them to bring up Spencer Horowitz, and I thought it was quite insulting the quote unquote quality of baseball that gentleman was playing in Buffalo and not getting a chance to play. I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is, and just say I'm gonna go call Spencer Horowitz the best pick the click over the next week here.
There you go.
So, is there anything else you would like to talk about before the end of the show here, my friend? I know you got a lot of, I'd say, irons in the fire, but go ahead and nail it.
One quick thing I wanted to mention for all the people that are tuning in live, as well as anybody that's listening to the podcast, I've partnered with Rival Baseball. It's a Canadian baseball company. They make custom bats, custom gloves. Their custom batters gloves are exactly the same as Bruce Bolt's, so the same material, same leather, same thickness, same band straps. And Bruce Bolt's are $160 Canadian. These are $60 batters gloves. They're completely customizable. Go to the site, build yourself a glove. If you need a glove right now, you may want to hold off for a couple of days. There is something important coming. Watch my TikTok, watch my Instagram, watch my Facebook. There will be an offer on Rival for you to get any glove that you want on the site, custom made for $200. So that is coming. And if you need an ultra high quality glove, these gloves will compete with 44. They'll compete with Rawlings Heart of the Hides. They'll compete with any of those top gloves that are out there. Wilson A2Ks. It's a great company, Canadian. Get out there and support it. I'm really happy to be involved with these guys. And I think there's some awesome stuff coming. We might have some giveaways and some other stuff coming in the near future. And also go check out Birdman Bats. Birdman is an awesome bat company. They're really exploding right now down in the US. A lot of kids using them in the MILLB. I'm going to the game tomorrow. And I actually am going to meet with one of the Canadians who is using the bat because I want to find out how they're hitting. But yeah, lots of stuff on the go. You guys are going to start to see some more availability of product as our podcast has a better reach. We're starting to talk to people like Dugout Mugs and Rival and Birdman and all these different companies where we want your product on here. We can show it. We can get it in front of people. We can also do it as giveaways. And it's a fun time to be a part of the show.
And if you haven't listened in on Friday evenings when I'm doing the baseball card opening, Jason and I have been talking all sorts of new things out. So it's not just these pieces of here, possibly getting some other things on there. Obviously, with anything that Jason comes up with will be being rebroadcast on our Jaybird Watching podcast platforms and stuff like that. But you have chances to win stuff. We have had 7 contest winners on Friday Night Pack Rips. We're doing a giveaway once a month. So the first Friday of every month. So that was last week, June 7th. We actually gave away some baseball cards to a young gentleman that has yet to claim his prize, but we are going to hopefully get him before the end of the week here. Otherwise, I'm re-gifting that prize on TikTok to somebody else tomorrow evening. So please get over. The only way for that contest to win baseball cards, 3D printed stuff like I have back here with Blue Jays paraphernalia, or just even maybe some of our fun Jaybird Watching paraphernalia, make sure you head over to TikTok and hit that subscribe button for us. And that's the only thing you have to do to enter. You just got to be 18 and live in the US or Canada. That's simple. And click a button. We're very happy to have you. So good deal. Thanks for that, Jason. Obviously, I just love the fact that we got some fun here, that we get to talk and not just baseball stuff and Blue Jays baseball, but we get to talk how we're, some cool equipment for the kiddos and whatnot, who obviously are just as invested in baseball as we are.
100%.
So good deal. So Blue Jays fans, make sure you check us out every week here on Thursday evenings, 7:00 Eastern, 4 on the West Coast where Jason's at. And make sure you check out our friends over at jaysjournal.com and fansided.com. We are the official Blue Jays podcast of that website. And have some fun with us. Join the conversation. We saw hundreds of you coming in and out and revolving around the door this evening. Make sure you talk to us. This is the Blue Jays barroom chat that we market here between Jason and myself. And we'll have some more fun and some guests over the next few weeks. And I guess that's it. Typical stuff, Jason. So I guess we'll get out of here. 1, 2, 3. Woo! Let's go, Blue Jays.
Thank you for listening to the Jay Bird Watching Podcast. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch at BirdwatchingGC, and our YouTube channel. If you want to support the show and get extra content, please consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/birdwatchinggc. Go Jays, go.